Morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me as we take a look at your work week forecast for October 20th through the 24th. And things have turned a little more active across southern Vermont, across the northeastern part of the United States. Obviously, we have rain going on this morning. We're going to have another storm impact our area middle of the week, Tuesday night through mostly Tuesday night into Wednesday, but then also kind of linger with some clouds and maybe a shower or two on Thursday. So let's talk about the details, go through things, talk about why we're going to get more rain out of this system than out of the one midweek, even though they have some pretty similar types of upper level support. So let's take a look at what's going on. Here's our storm for today. You can see we're really moving some Atlantic moisture in our direction. The system is the surface low pressure is back to our west. And we'll take a look at radar here. But the heaviest of the rain is mostly going to stay where kind of east of us, where the really heavy rain comes. But we're going to get plenty of rain here in southern Vermont out of this one. Here's our next system. Lots of upper level energy. As you can see, currently it is very detached from a moisture source. Gulf of Mexico, not open for business yet, at least in terms of this storm. It will tap a little Atlantic moisture. We're going to talk about why not quite as much as this system has today as we get towards the second half of the forecast as I talk through things with you here. But first, let's take a look at radar. Again, even though there's not a lot of, it's actually got quite a bit of precipitation, even though there's not a lot of moisture. This is a very vigorous upper level system. And then here, of course, across the northeast, you can see, especially where we've got that flow coming off the Atlantic Ocean, we really are moving some moisture in. Let's take a closer look at that. And you can see big slug of moisture headed in our direction. We are kind of on the western periphery of it. So areas in eastern Bennington and eastern Windsor and Windham counties are where you're going to see the most rain out of this. And then we will get some rain as the tail comes through as well. But areas to the west, certainly like Route 7 corridor, not quite as much rain out of this one. Still, though, everybody gets a decent amount of rain, and certainly if you're anywhere east of here in New England, you're getting a lot of rain today, and some heavy rain. And we've had some heavy rain even here in Londonderry, kind of in the as the morning has gone on. So let's take a look at the two systems, and we can kind of see how the pattern has gotten busier here as well. We've got a lot of short waves. Here's one. Here's our system today. This is the upper level support for our system. Here's the support for the next system. You can see this is a notice that the colors are a little muted, not quite as many purples in here. It's not quite as tight a shortwave, although it's bigger overall. And then we've got a couple more systems to the west. These are going to become more of a system that impacts the western part of the United States and the central part of the United States as our weather turns a little quieter after we get through this system here. But yeah, you can see in your state, what's going to happen is here, this system's going to pull out a little bit here, and this system will just kind of replace it. But it won't be exactly the same. We're not going to get like a repeat of today's weather, even though they're going to follow a very similar path. Some of that is temperature stuff or what. No, let's go. We'll come back to temperatures after. Let's look at the kind of the surface lows for the 2 days, and that really tells the story. So here's today, and it's a little hard to see, but your surface low pressure is basically just east of the Great Lakes, and you can see the flow around that has turned very southerly and even southeasterly, which is why we have that slug of moisture coming up off the Atlantic. Now, what happens with the next system, kind of let me get out of the way here, is the low pressure is located further to the west, kind of over the Great Lakes, and it's a little broader. You can see instead of a sharp, tight dip these are isobars, lines of equal pressure. But here we have more of a broad dip. And so what's happening here is we're kind of getting southwesterly flow. So it's going to tap a little bit of Atlantic moisture, but not as much. So rainfall totals will be less out of this, although we'll still have plenty of clouds, plenty of breeziness with this storm. And we will have some rain with it, but just not as much as we get out of this system. And if we go back, let's go back to those temperatures and see one thing that is true. We are starting to build a little bit of cold here across northwestern Canada. But basically temperatures are typical, I would say, for this time of year. No significant deep cold outbreaks on the horizon, at least for the next week or so. So we are still kind of in that fall period where it's not exactly warm out there. Well, today it is actually a little bit warm as we've pushed some air from kind of the Atlantic, which is still relatively warm, obviously, this time of year, onshore, but not as no outbreaks of cold coming, like I said, in the next week and a half or so. Beyond that, we'll have to wait and see. We are, like I said, there's a little bit of cold in Canada, but nothing overly Arctic looking at the moment. That will obviously change as we move through the year here. If we take a look at your actual forecast, so today is rain. It's probably a little bit of a break this afternoon. Before this evening, we get that backside of the radar that we looked at earlier to swing through with another round of showers. Some of that rain could be on the heavy side at times. Tomorrow is mostly dry, could even have a few peaks of sun, but we're going to be morning probably some leftover clouds, and we start to build clouds for the next system, which is going to come through. We get the first kind of wave of that. It'll come through probably in a couple of waves. It looks like that's what the models want to forecast. And I'm going to call that light rain. So the best chance for the heavier rain there would probably be Tuesday night, overnight while you're asleep. The Wednesday looks more showery in the afternoon, maybe a period of light rain. Thursday, still a few leftover sprinkles, mostly cloudy. We could see a peak of sun on Thursday, but it's unlikely, I think. Friday is much more likely to see some sun, although I think clouds still often dominate the weather on Friday. As you can see, temperatures, we do kind of cool down some as we move through the week. After kind of our warm and even a little bit muggy start today, we're in the low 60s for the most part in southern Vermont. We will slowly trend towards upper 40s by Friday as we start to dry out. And overnight lows are actually kind of warm this week, mostly because we're going to be mostly cloudy, and that doesn't allow us to cool off as much. So nothing below freezing, it looks like, at least for this week. So it's going to be a little gloomy this week. And we're looking at some decent amount of rain. It's good for the drought busting kind of stuff, and we are kind of moving forward on that. Let's take a quick look at those work week highlights. The pattern has turned active with 2 systems impacting our area this week. Rain heavy at times today with maybe an inch to an inch and a half, which is really good. A lot of that, by the time you see this forecast, will already have fallen in terms of the measurable rain, but we could still get a little bit more, certainly this afternoon and this evening. Tuesday night into Wednesday, the storm will move through with a lighter rain and breezy weather, probably less than not much more than a half an inch, maybe even a little bit less for the storm Tuesday into Wednesday, but it will kind of continue to keep the ground moist and allow some of that moisture to seep deeper into the ground to refill some of that top layers of the soil, which have really dried out here over the second half of the summer. We should be dry out a bit by the end of the week, and this weekend looks pretty dry, at least as an early look. We'll have to make sure there's a possibility Sunday of a system in our area, but right now it looks like it's going to go not make its way to us. And the pattern has turned more fall-like. Basically what I mean by that is more active and stronger low pressure systems, which is what happens this time of year always, is that we start to get more temperature contrast in the atmosphere, and we move from kind of a situation during the summer where it's mostly if we have fronts and things like that can trigger thunderstorms to more of a organized system type of pattern, and that is what we have done, and that will be likely the case until we move back into a more summer-like pattern, probably sometime next May. So, yeah, there you go. I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons. They help support what I do here at the West River Weather Guy. As patrons, they get a forecast. They get a weekend forecast every Wednesday, even when I'm not as busy with forecasts, getting forecasts out to you. So if you're interested in making sure you get something from the West River Weather Guy every week, you can check in on being a patron. There's a couple different levels. You can also get my forecast emailed to you if you don't want to have to search for them on social media or on my YouTube page. And they also, some of them get an extended forecast. There's an extended forecast level where you get a 10-day forecast every Wednesday. So that's what your options are in terms of supporting me as the West River Weather Guy. I appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed before, I'd encourage you to do so. Helps make sure you don't miss any of my videos as they start to come out with more regularity as we head towards this time of the year weather-wise. All right, I will be back on Friday with a look at your weekend